I'm talking today with Rocco Di Pietro. He's a composer and he's a visiting artist here at Stanford University. And I'd really like you to tell me a little bit about how you got started as a composer and maybe highlights of your career, anything you want to share?
Music came to me. I've thought about this question and how to answer it in such a singular way for myself. And what I mean by that is that I felt that I was possessed by music. So music for me was like an act of possession. It came to me as a vocation hole that opened up very early on. I got my rattles and I started to shake them. And really I was probably trying to get away from something. I wanted to protect myself from reality, and I was probably possessed by the spirit of my grandparents, who came to me as a kind of benevolent force. And so the idea then that music would be a way to protect myself from reality, and to protect myself from a place that perhaps I didn't even want to come here. My whole life would be determined by that. So very early on, I didn't always know I was going to be a composer, but pretty much by 14 it was all over, and all I did was music. I started to play instruments at the age of 10, and by that time, by some standards, it was already too late. I went to a teacher and he said, "Oh, my dear boy, you're so far behind." The typical kind of European attitude towards, you should have started when you were 6 or something. So anyway, but for the States, I started pretty young, and I started privately with Hans Hagen was my first teacher, and my father paid for those lessons, and that was very interesting. I got to go to all the concerts in Buffalo, New York, and at that time it was in the middle of a complete renaissance because Lucas Foss was conducting the orchestra there. There was an enormous amount of traffic. Of course, when you're in high school, you don't know these things, that you're in the middle of a renaissance. And everyone in the new music field was in and out of Buffalo constantly because there was a center for new music. So I got to hear the American premiere of Stockhausen Momente, Ligeti, Xenakis, John Cage. These people were regular visitors to the city. And I heard the most diverse programs possible, all the works of Ives, all the Mahler symphonies, lots of Stravinsky, and much new music of all kinds was played in Buffalo through the center and through the orchestra. And it was a wonderful opportunity for me. I was shocked by Lucas Foss's music. It was shocking to me when I tried to turn the pages of Echoey. I couldn't even manage it, and he was very kind about it. So that's a bit how I came to music, through a vocation hole, and then through an extraordinary environment in which I was immersed in all kinds of music.
Could you tell a little bit about the training that you ended up seeking later on in life to solidify your work as a composer?
Sure. That's very unusual for me because in many ways I'm sort of self-taught. Yet I had private instruction, so I'm not self-taught. So I'm in between. I'm not like Schoenberg, who was a self-taught composer, but I'm sort of like that as far as composition is concerned, but not with music. I studied in a traditional way with Hans Hagen, harmony and thorough bass and piano. The lessons went on for a long time. I was with him for 5 years, and I got a rather harsh education in a certain Germanic school of piano playing, and my fingers were often slapped with a ruler and cigar smoke blown in my face, and Tipici Italiani, she would tell me that Italians can't count. He was a delightful old man, and I loved him dearly, and he just brought it all out of my head. The lessons were very long. I was terrible at harmony and thorough bass, and I told him I hated it. And when you look at all my notebooks, you can see I told him, this is all the stuff I don't want to learn. I want to create my own technique. I don't want to learn this. So in many ways, I went on automatic pilot with all the things he was teaching me. In the end, I learned to play the Mozart sonatas, and I went through the entire repertoire with him. But by the time I studied with Lucas Voss or Bruno Maderna, it was not that kind of study anymore. That's where I say I'm self-taught as a composer, sort of self-taught as a composer, because they just talked to me about music. The lessons with Maderna, you'd show him your work, so you talked more about philosophy than anything else. So Hagen was the big teacher of traditional techniques for me.